Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. My name is Jack Pongyesva, and I help manage the ICCG program at Grand Canyon Trust. That's the Intertribal Centennial Conversations Group. So I know it's a mouthful, but Serena Riggs and I, we run the program. And yeah, I think I had a presentation, and hopefully we'll get it loaded up in a minute. But
Jack, just as a reminder, you're sharing your screen, correct?
no, we were having you do it, but I could bring
Nope,
it up.
I'll have it up in 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. But yeah, excited to be here. Just look, I guess a little background. Well, I'll get into it in more detail, but ICCG group came around due to the Grand Canyon National Park celebrating the 100th anniversary last year, or sorry, 2 years ago now in 2019. And it was kind of it was established for kind of to find a way to better include and increase the inclusion of Native American presence in Grand Canyon National Park and around Grand Canyon in pretty much every way. So cool, thank you. So yeah, so basically we were able to contact about 35 tribal members from as many of the 11 Grand Canyon tribes as we could. And these are all community leaders and just great individuals, people that had worked in the park, just great tribal members with great representation of their cultures and great community involvement and everything. And we had about 8 meetings throughout 2018. So we got a year's start in preparation for the 100th anniversary at Grand Canyon National Park. And so we basically had open-ended conversations and sessions all day long, 8 times in 2018, where we, kind of just had people comment about how they felt about the Grand Canyon National Park, how they see it today, how they hope to see in the future, and basically, how their ancestors have told them about it and different things like that. So it was really nice to gather that information, even though there was a lot of it. And essentially, we broke it into 3 different categories: education, economic development, and stewardship. But so just before I go on to the next slide, as you can see, the title of my presentation is continuing with new traditions. And that's because, I like to think of it as really adapting to the social climate right now, and also creating new traditions like this one now. We've been a part of the GTS for I think the 3rd year running now, and we're just really happy to be so embraced by Lynn and different organizations, as well as the park. Especially before COVID, we were doing a lot of public speaking and education up there to just kind of create awareness for contemporary tribes and the tribes that how they're doing today. Just the fact that indigenous people, are very prominent and view the canyon as so sacred and significant in their culture still. So different things like that, just kind of raising awareness so that we can kind of start building that, bridge towards more inclusion, increased awareness, and also just increased peoples of Native heritage and culture in the Grand Canyon, and to have everyone feel comfortable and everything. So you can go ahead and switch it. So so as I stated before, I'm going to be using the acronym ICCG, but it is Intertribal Centennial Conversations Group. And here is a map of basically the traditional territories in the Grand Canyon. This was taken off Sarah Krakoff, a professor of law at Colorado University of Colorado in Boulder. And she did a great research thesis project on colonialism and Native Americans, and kind of the setbacks that kind of are instilled through that. And I feel like that's more relevant than ever right now, especially with all the social justice going on in the country and everything. So I just think this is a great map because it really shows you the territories and the places that the tribes frequented, and kind of just how they moved around so much. And then you have the current reservations on the right hand side, exactly where all the Grand Canyon tribes are kind of located and were designated to go after having treaties or different things, after government involvement. So I just think it's a cool comparison. We're going to try to have these maps printed out, hopefully for sharing down the road. But yeah, just a cool preview. We're working on that, and I'll get a little bit more into that later in the presentation. And then at the bottom here, you have the vision statement, which all our members kind of came up with, critiqued, and added to and edited through those 8 sessions in 2018. So it's kind of what we came up with. And I think that it kind of sums up the group really well, and really kind of embraces our values and everything. You can go ahead and turn. So our first category, like I mentioned, after addressing all the suggestions and comments and wishes and wants of our tribal members during those meetings, I had the meticulous job of compiling and writing those notes out. And after some conversations, we ended up breaking all these different things, because there's so many things that can be and should be addressed in the park, but we ended up breaking it down into 3 categories, like I mentioned. And education is definitely the first and foremost one we're concentrating on now, because we figure it's the more short-term solution. And obviously you need awareness and education before you can get into things like stewardship and maybe even economic development, so that the tourists, the interp staff at the park, and everyone just needs to first obviously be aware of these tribes and like all the traditional heritage that is still connected with the tribes, and just what is out there right now. And a lot of tourists, I feel like, don't really have that mental note yet, or haven't learned the contemporary tribes, and that they're not very far, and especially people coming from obviously outside of the US to the park, but also just from around the United States. I think that it's can kind of be overlooked that the tribes still live in the relatively close area, and it's still huge cultural connections between these tribes and the canyon and everything. So this is this is our education component. There's Colleen Koska. She's one of our tribal members in our group, and she helped do a lot of public speaking up at the canyon when we had more in-person events at the Shrine of Ages and everything. So yeah, that's education. That's really what we're focusing on, hammering it down so that we can kind of build that road to the long-term goals that we have next, and some of the other things that we've been working on. Okay, you can go ahead and turn. All right. So as I mentioned, we did do some events at the Grand Canyon, and that was great. I think that was one of the best ways to reach, a large audience and people who are really, psyched to learn this kind of stuff, and really open to receiving it and everything. We got great feedback at a lot of the events, and we were just grateful to be included in those. And it's too bad that, they discontinued them, obviously because of COVID, but hopefully once things get better and everyone gets vaccinated, we're able to gather in groups again. Hopefully we'll be able to pick that up and start those new traditions as well. So yeah, I mean, it was great, because we were able to even help educate, or just, talk and present to, hiking guides, river guides like yourselves, the historical society, but also the rangers at the park and everything. And then we loved the summit that Mike Collins and Pam Edwards threw on race, gender, culture and inclusion. And that was a great event. And I think that's kind of more along the lines of things that we kind of hope to see down the road, is different things like that, including cultural sensitivity and just overall awareness. I feel like awareness and education are the name of the game for us right now. And that's kind of where we're headed and what we're working on. And then I don't know if you all know Ed Cabody, but he does these events called Rumble on the Mountain. And I'm pretty sure he did one in Utah, I think with Friends of Cedar Mesa, Rumble on the Mesa or something. And then also Rumble on the Rim. He did, I think it was in 2019 for the first time. At the end of 2019, I'm pretty sure. I hope I'm right on that. But it's what he likes to call edutainment. It's education and entertainment put together. And so you would have presenters and different indigenous groups or organizations such as Save the Confluence set up, and have just open information booths so tourists can come and learn more. And then Ed and other people would assemble their bands and their musical instruments and jam out. So I wasn't able to go to the Rumble on the Rim, but I heard it was a great event and everything. So he's really been really strong on his own to do those events. And so we really commend him for it. And he's also one of our group tribal members in our group. And then Voices of the Grand Canyon. I'm not sure if any of you or how many of you are aware of the Voices of the Grand Canyon resource website. It's great for interpretive materials and different like basic knowledge on tribes and different things and things that you would be able to share on the river. So feel free to check that out. Please do. Hopefully we'll be kind of merging with that and kind of spinning off and using it to form our own river curriculum. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, so that's pretty much what our aim is, educating interpretive guides and interpretive staff at the park, working with NPS as much as we can, and just in the Fields Institute and GCC, and just, creating that awareness and education. So you can go ahead and turn. So economy is our second category. And so this one was kind of tough for us because a lot of, I guess in simplest way I could put it is economic development and traditional culture for Native Americans are just completely opposite things. They don't really mesh at all. Just the way, just capitalism or profits over everything and materialism in comparison to respect for the land. Absolutely, zero waste and properly, being stewards of the land and not using it for, our own gain and whatnot. So this was kind of a tough, kind of heated area. I'm not heated, but there was a couple debates here and there. But we all kind of came to a conclusion, and we thought that there are certain ways that you can do economic development and support entrepreneurs and artists and vendors. And so that's definitely something that we had been working on before the pandemic hit. We had been planning a event at Albright Training Center last June, from June 1st to June 4th. And obviously we had to postpone it, which was a disappointment. We've been working on it for so long, but we really wanted to embrace kind of the lower spectrum side of economic development and I guess entrepreneurship and just economic endeavors, as in, we're sending the message that you don't really have to strive for a casino or a corporation or something huge like a restaurant. We want to really support our artists, our vendors, our jewelry makers, different things like that, and kind of try to give them the tools that they would be able to, at least, better their business or try to make it more efficient, effective, maybe create, a network for them to sell their stuff in the park and everything. So that was definitely something we were working with National Park Service, with Mike Linden and Jan Balsam really closely, and as well as our the picture right there, Jessica Stegos. She runs this Native American incubator up in Tuba, and she works for the Grand Canyon Trust as well. So it was it was looking to be a great event. We were planning it all, and then the pandemic hit. But I mean, I know everyone's having hardships with that and had to kind of postpone their stuff. So we're not too bummed about it, especially because we're trying to see the silver lining. It seems like the new superintendent, Ed, it seems like he's really driven to, do some work with Native American communities, and also we will probably be able to give now all these different entrepreneurs and our targeted audience, not exclusively, but mainly, Native entrepreneurs and people who are, looking to do business endeavors, hopefully teaching them how to get out of the pandemic, cope with the times that are now, going on, cope with tourism as it's starting to regain its footsteps, and really, add that component to the structure of the event come, hopefully next spring or summer when we're able to do it. So that's definitely something that we're excited about. And that would be, kind of moving into that second goal, which is kind of the more long-term than education, but definitely not as long-term as stewardship. So we just think, education first, economic development second, and then stewardship last. And we just don't know how long that's going to take. But even Jan has said this a couple of times in some of our meetings, it's this multi-generational step and progress that we're really looking for. So that's kind of the way we look at it. How can we make the park a more comfortable, more embracive place for tribal members of all ages, and hopefully specifically the youth as well, so that they are able to come and learn things, because it's such a great education tool, just like Canyon in general. There's just so much there, and and having the opportunity to go with like your elders, elders and the youth and everything. We just think it would be great, and so we want to just create that whole kind of vibe. You can change it. Okay, so this is kind of some of the stuff we're working on. Like I mentioned, we're doing the economic development summit, which was called Emergence. We were going to do it at Albright, and attendees would not have to pay anything. And we just really wanted to highlight, yeah, you can do it. We're hopefully having, right now we're having conversations where there are spots that would boost economic development for, native tribes or different native run organizations in different parts of the canyon. And I think that's one of the main things that we were but hoping to do when we were planning this event was, work with National Park Service and see, okay, how can we get native businesses in the village itself? Because Desert View is awesome and everything, but we would like to have a seat at the table here and there as well. You can change it. Okay, so our last component or category was stewardship. Like I said, it's a long-term goal, and that would just be to, create coalitions, management teams with tribal members, and hopefully, work with, the fire department at Grand Canyon National Park or different land management, departments there, and just, monitor the land, kind of use traditional ecological knowledge and different management techniques there. And that one's kind of obviously, like I said, long-term, but that's also really complex because that's more government to government. And one thing about ICCG is that we really want to do it on a community-based grassroots level platform, because sometimes there's a huge disconnect between tribal government and tribal community and the people that actually live in the community. And so we really didn't want to focus on that until later, the government to government, but stewardship would probably require that. So there's still a little bit of hashing out to go when we get there and how to really form that and make that, a thing and materialize. But that's something on the horizon. You can change.
3 minutes left.
All right. So stewardship, like I said, that's something in the future, but we were able to help bring about the Grand Canyon Centennial Protection Act, which was brought forth to Congress by Senator Grijalva or Representative Grijalva and O'Halloran. And I heard it just got passed through the House, I'm pretty sure. So that's exciting. But our energy team at Grand Canyon Trust kind of took that over for us because they're more, they more deal with the politics side. But essentially it was that the Grand Canyon Centennial Protection Act would reestablish the moratorium that Obama put on the Grand Canyon, 1,000 miles of uranium-free mining area and no claims in that area, that 1,000 square miles. So that was great, and hopefully we get it passed through the Senate, and hopefully that becomes a thing. It's looking good though. Let me change. So this brings me to our current efforts, and so that kind of relates directly with river guides and everything. So right now we're trying to create a river curriculum, and so we're still trying to figure out what that looks like in the end and how to disperse that and everything. But essentially, we would like to have different education tools and different education sessions that we could teach river guides like yourselves how, things that you can share on the river if you would like to. Obviously, we don't want to force this on anyone, but we just want to make it so it's easy to learn, easy to share, and that guides are comfortable doing it, because I think that's one of the biggest problems. I could see how that would be an issue to, for someone to share something and may not feel like they're welcome to share it, or that, that they should share it and everything. So we're really trying to sort that kind of stuff out, and talking with, different organizations and hopefully, some of the outfitters later on. We really hope to bring that about and use the native voices of the Colorado River to do that as well, because we definitely want to use the great work that's in that website and resource base and everything. So, along with that, eventually we would like to create maybe positions on the river for Native youth and different things like that down the road. But we definitely want to start with education, and that's something that's really in the main sights of us right now. And that's why we're really excited to be a part of this, and also the trip coming up down the river. And I think it will be a good opportunity to really start sharing those things and be comfortable sharing those things. And that's one of the things that we're really excited about, because kind of just fell into our laps. And Claire Magnuson from Azra has been working with us too. She's doing an internship with us through her NAU, her master's degree that she's getting right now. And so she's been a great help. And yeah, we're hoping to really kind of put something together and have something at least by hopefully the end of the season. If not, we'll have something concrete for you guys next season. So yeah, that's really exciting. And we're ready to go. And I think that might be the last one. But yeah, so I don't know if we have time for questions or not, but
we don't actually. Okay. But if you want to, Jack, if you're all right staying around, you can direct message Jack some questions. We're going to invite Sarana to come on deck. Jack, there was some questions in the chat about if you'd be willing to share the